There is a place in this world that cannot be understood the same way twice. Not because it changes, but because the one who sees it does. High in the Carpathian Mountains, beyond what any map can show, there is a place called Babariu. It does not reveal itself easily, and even when it does, it is never seen in full. Some come looking for it, others find it without knowing how, and when they leave, they can never find it in the same place again. At the beginning, the design of this place was very different. The first version felt fixed, like something you could locate, something you could return to. But that didn't match the idea, because Babariu is not something you reach directly, so the structure had to move away from that. It couldn't feel anchored in one place, it had to feel slightly displaced. To humans, Babariu is a legend, a hidden school of Solomonarii, somewhere deep in the mountains. It is said to reveal itself only to those chosen. Stories speak of trials, of knowledge that should not be learned, of people who enter and return changed, or don't return at all. And like most things that are not fully understood, the stories don't agree. Some describe it as a sanctuary, others as a place of danger. Some say it protects knowledge, others believe it hides something that should remain unseen. But none of these versions are complete. They are fragments, different attempts to describe the same place from different distances. And what makes Babariu difficult to understand is not just how it looks. What matters more is how it feels when you're there. Distance doesn't feel right. What seems close takes longer to reach, and what feels far is suddenly there. The size feels off. Not enough to notice immediately, but enough to make you question it. The space doesn't feel empty. Even when there is nothing there, there is a weight to it. Like the structure itself is aware of your presence, not watching but responding. But for the clans, Babariu is not a myth. It is the center, a place where knowledge is preserved, refined, and passed forward. Everything here is built around three disciplines: the slușirea, the ability to perceive and decode the flow; rânduiala, the structure that stabilizes it; legarea, the force that shapes and directs it. Each discipline on its own is incomplete, because perception without structure breaks apart. Structure without control remains static, and control without understanding becomes unstable. So they are not separate paths, they are part of the same process. To reach coherence across all three disciplines means becoming something else entirely, not defined by a single ability, not by strength, not by lineage, but by alignment, the ability to perceive, to structure and to control the flow as a unified system. It is not a role that can be claimed, only reached. Those who achieve this are known as Solomonarii. Most do not. They remain within the system as part of its function, maintaining it, supporting it without ever fully stepping beyond it. When I start refining the structure, this is the part that takes the most time. I move things around, adjust the shapes, see what fits better. Sometimes it looks fine, but something still feels off, so I change it again. Mostly small things, but they matter, and I keep going until everything feels more stable. But sometimes what looks complete isn't. The first version looked finished. It had form, it had symmetry, it had presence, but it only worked from one perspective. The moment you started breaking it apart, it lost its logic. So instead of refining it, I had to rethink it entirely. The structure couldn't just look right, it had to behave right. Each part had to depend on the others, like removing one piece would affect the whole. That's when it shifted from a building into something closer to a system. That's where the materials started to matter more. Not just how they look, but how they sit in the structure. At the bottom I used amethyst. It felt like a good base, something that holds everything together. It's usually linked with clarity and stability. Around it there's also wood that helps ground everything and makes the structure feel more connected to the environment. Above that, bismuth. That's where most of the structure is. It has this geometric look, very clean, very structured. It's often associated with transformation and change. And at the top, gold. Not really as part of the structure, but more like something that sits on top of it. It connects things, but also feels a bit separate from the rest. It's often seen as valuable and connected to energy. If Babariu is understood differently, it's not just because of perception. It's because the place itself does not behave in a fixed way. It adapts, not visibly, not directly, but enough to change how it's experienced. Two people can stand in the same place and not feel the same structure around them, and neither of them would be wrong. Within the world of Solomonarii, that structure is not just symbolic, it reflects how the system is maintained. Babariu is held together by the order of the Solomonarii, 7 individuals who have achieved full integration. They define what can be understood and what must remain controlled. And at the center of it all stands Azarion, the headmaster of Babariu, the one who maintains the system, the one who understands it beyond what others can see. There's more to him, but we'll come back to that. For humans, Babariu is just a story. For the clans, it's a place of learning. But neither sees the whole picture, because Babariu doesn't really hide what it is. It just shows different parts to different people, and because of that, everyone thinks they understand it, even when they don't. Babariu isn't hidden, people just see it differently. This is only the surface of Babariu. There's a lot more behind it, and we're just getting started. If you're already subscribed, I appreciate you being here, and if you're new, consider joining in. I'll see you in the next one.